I think the vice president should have more authority. They should, I don't know.
Well, they always said,
The
Dick Cheney was one heartbeat away, that George Bush was one heartbeat away from the White House, is what they said back in the day, but that's a side joke. So I'll answer their question head on, if I may. And I've been to events like this where some of you have come out, not in this room, but people in the state. It's happened about 3 or 4 times in the last few weeks, where somebody said they came in with that question and then left asking whether I would consider Trump as my vice president. And you know what? I said I would. I don't think you would take it, but I think that what the heart of that question is, and I'll tell you for my part, I can answer this honestly, is this shouldn't be about ego. Right? We're in this for the country. It is our duty to this country to do whatever's our best role to serve this country at a moment where we're not working with a lot of time. I mean, if my kids are in high school before we get this right, I don't think we have a country left. If the interest payments on our national debt become the largest line item in our federal budget, that's about 5 years from now. I don't think we have a country left. And so I've got questions like this, or would you consider running in 2028 because we love Donald Trump? Any of that works for me. I don't think it works for our country. Because right now,
I think Trump needs help.
well, I think our country needs help. And I think that I will take Donald Trump's help. I think I would need help. I've said I would take Trump as my advisor, as my top advisor during my first year in office, because I want to know where the bodies are buried. When I think about where we are as a country right now, we're in the middle of a war in this country right now. I don't use that word lightly. It is a war between those of us who love this country and a fringe minority who hates this country and wants to see it cease to exist. A war between the permanent state and the everyday citizen, between the Great Reset and the Great Uprising. That is the war that we face in this country right now. And so think about, if you want a general to lead us to victory in that war, the commander-in-chief, I think we have to pick somebody who is not currently wounded in that war. If I was 80 years old and had 4 different wounds and counting, I wouldn't tell you to put me in the role of commander-in-chief either. So I think each of us has our role to play. And so my word to you all is, whatever we do, we'll wipe the floor in Congress or the White House or wherever else across this country, if that's how I believe I'll have my maximal change that I can make for this country. And it's not going to be some president coming from on high like a messiah to save all of us from the White House. It doesn't work that way. If we're going to be saved, it's going to be because we saved ourselves. Every one of us has our role to play. But I believe right now in this moment, we require a president who understands the law and the Constitution, and somebody with the brawn to actually see it through and stand for it. Somebody, I believe, now more than ever with fresh legs.
So is that a maybe?
I'll be very honest, because you guys get to know me. I have a mental defect, and I'll share it with you. It's worked in my favor so far. I've built successful businesses, and you guys should know that if a president has a mental defect, you deserve to know about it. I'm not a Plan B person. I didn't get to where I am by being a Plan B person, but I couldn't even be one if I tried. I'll tell you what's true in my heart. I believe we're going to win the Iowa caucus. I believe if I win the Iowa caucus, I'm going to be your next president. I believe if I'm your next president, the things I'm telling you we're going to get done. The beautiful thing about nearly everything I've told you we're going to get done, I think everything I've told you we're going to get done, that I get to do as your president without asking Congress for permission or for forgiveness. And so that's what I'm going to be able to do. And I'll give you my word that Donald Trump, I will use him and rely on him in whatever way is best. He's going to be in his 80s. I want him as an advisor. I want to honor his legacy for this country. But I think if we're in the middle of this war, we're skating on thin ice. I don't think we're going to have a country left unless we have the president who gets this right. And the other thing I would ask you to tell your friends is what I told this group earlier. Were you here earlier, ma'am, or have you been here since the start? I want you to tell them what I said earlier, which is the truth. They're leading us into a trap right now. They want this to be. They don't want, I mean, the establishment does not want me in this race. They want to get this down between Donald Trump and a puppet. And I have a strong sense of who that puppet is. Used to think it was Joe Biden or Gavin Newsom or Michelle Obama or whoever. It's actually within our own party. They want to get this to be a 2-horse race, eliminate Trump this spring, one way or another. Study history. Study global history, study the history of this country, study the history of the last 4 years, study the history of the last 4 months. And open your eyes. I am not God. I cannot tell you what the future holds, but I can tell you what I see, and I'm asking you to open your eyes with me to see that this system is making clear to us they will not allow this man anywhere near office. And we cannot fall into that trap. There's a trap that's laid for us. 4 years ago, it was a man-made pandemic and a tech-rigged election and process leading up to it. What do you think they're going to do this time? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We are walking into that trap, and I am here to make sure, and I'm asking you not to throw away your vote at the Iowa caucus, to actually think ahead, to skate to where the puck is going. You've got the future of America First standing right here. You've got fresh legs. You've got the guy who, and I have a good relationship with Donald Trump. We will honor his legacy more than anybody else. I would go so far as to say, if you want to save Trump and his legacy, but save Trump the man himself, I'm going to ask you to vote for me. And I know that's counterintuitive, but that's what this country requires. And I think that's why I'm going to stay in this, not only through this Iowa caucus, but through the very end. And the very end isn't the winning of just this election. It's January 2033, after we've led this country after 2 terms, and we revive who we really are. That's my duty to this country. And I thank you, dear friends. Thank you. Well, that's what we sometimes have to do, is open our eyes. I didn't think this way about a year ago either, but you go through this process, it opens your eyes. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And then the question is, to whom do you owe the obligation? It's not to me and it's not to Trump. It's to this country, it's to our founding fathers, and it's to the next 250 years left that this country still has left in it, to make sure it does not end in the next 12 months that we're sitting right in front of. And I think that's what we're facing if we don't get this right.
How about the pedophiles in the country?
That's a whole separate issue. But I think that they need to be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. A lot of them are using the southern border to do this. First of all, anybody on the Jeffrey Epstein client list, just release the whole darn thing. Just tell us the truth for once and for all in this country. You asked an important question, and so I can't not mention the most important part of this, but it's a longer conversation, is we have a pornography problem in this country. Mm-hmm. It's a demand side issue, too. So it's not just going after the whack-a-mole of the criminals here. We got to do that. We're not even doing that now. And the U.S. Marshals has been far more effective than the FBI, which goes to my earlier question. Shut down the FBI and move the cops to the U.S. Marshals. But we have to deal with an issue that begins with our schools, begins with our culture, begins with the modern internet. Kids under the age of 16 should not be using addictive, algorithmically powered social media products under the age of 16, period. And I will stand for that. It's not a Democratic proposal or a Republican one. These should be ideals that every parent, every adult in this country should stand for, is protecting our children, the next generation. That's our job, not just as parents, but as citizens. Sir, we'll come to you.
I just feel so blessed that
that you and the Republican Party are positioned the way that they are. And this isn't really a question, but you talk about 8 years from now and serving for 8 years, and I think that is awesome. And I think whoever works with you, if you're the president, could serve another 8 years after that. Unfortunately, Donald Trump, even if he were elected, can only serve 4 years, and I think the Republican Party is at a point right now where they need to take control and do exactly what you're saying. So I just thank you so much for what you're saying.
I appreciate you being here, sir. Thank you. You live in this community? Thank you for being here, sir. I appreciate it. We'll come to our Penguins fan here.
Yes, Mr. Ramaswamy, in the debates, you have stood out from the other people on stage because your policies on Ukraine, your thoughts on Ukraine. If Ukraine ends up going the route of Georgia and Crimea, who do you think Putin is going after next? And is it a NATO ally, and is that World War III?
So let me address the question on Ukraine. Thank you for asking. I think that we deserve, there's 2 divides in the Republican Party, basically, ideological divides. One is foreign policy, role in places like Ukraine. The other is commitment to the Constitution, especially free speech. And I'm happy to address the other one, but I'll address this one first. So this war doesn't advance our interests because it's actually increasing the risk we do face, which is the Russia-China military alliance. Russia is in a military alliance with China. Those 2 countries actually together outmatch us. Russia's nuclear stockpiles and hypersonic missile capabilities are ahead of the U.S. China's Navy is bigger than ours, as measured by number of ships. And we depend on China's economy, shamefully, for our modern way of life. From our pharmaceuticals to our own military equipment, actually is made in China. It's a dirty little secret they don't advertise often. So our policies in Ukraine, it's not just that we're wasting, as though this is bad enough, $200 billion of our own taxpayer money that should be better used in defending our own border rather than some part of Ukraine's. But that we're driving Russia further into China's hands at a moment where the Russia-China alliance is the biggest risk that we face. I would go in reverse. I would end the war in Ukraine on reasonable terms that allow Ukraine to come out with its sovereignty intact, which may not even be the track that Ukraine's on right now, actually, with us half in, half out. I would end the war diplomatically on reasonable terms that allow Ukraine to come out with its sovereignty intact. Yes, there will be some territorial negotiations in the eastern part of Ukraine. We'll make a hard commitment that NATO will not admit Ukraine to NATO, but Putin does not get that for free. I will also require that Putin exit his military alliance with China. That's a deal that Putin would do. It's a deal that we should do. Now, I also want to state some hard facts about Ukraine because I do believe that we have been misled by the mainstream media and most of the Republican Party. It's been framed in that first presidential debate. Nikki Haley derided me and called it a battle between good and evil. Well, let's double click on that a little bit. Ukraine is not some model democracy. They've banned 11 opposition parties. They have consolidated all media to one state TV media arm. Zelensky's with the Canadian Parliament praising some Nazi in his own ranks. They've banned the Ukrainian Orthodox Church using our taxpayer money to persecute Christians in their own country. The eastern regions of Ukraine, the three provinces that apparently the Republicans that want to fight for, they can't even tell you what they are. Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, the three provinces in eastern Ukraine, they have not even been represented in the Ukrainian parliament for the last 10 years. And they're trying to ban Russian as a language. And the reason those regions are occupied is that most people who live there didn't view themselves as part of Ukraine. So there was no counterinsurgency like in Kyiv, where there was. So against that backdrop, are we going to fight this war for these regions that basically haven't even been part of Ukraine or not part of Ukraine? The people who live there don't view it as part of Ukraine? Do you believe in democracy or don't you? The question is, what advances American interests? And so the answer that advances American interests is spined diplomacy, diplomacy with a spine. End the war, Ukraine comes out with its sovereignty intact, break apart the Russia-China alliance. I would even reopen some economic relations with Russia in that context. And keep in mind, this is about standing for our own word in this country. What the mainstream media doesn't tell you is that James Baker, our Secretary of State, in 1990 made a commitment to Gorbachev, who was the leader of the Soviet Union, that NATO would expand not 1 inch. That was the commitment, not 1 inch past East Germany. NATO has expanded far past that, more after the fall of the USSR than it did before. Now, nobody in today's broken foreign policy establishment, from the John Boltons to the Karl Roves to the Joe Bidens to the Lindsey Grahams to the Nikki Haleys of the world, I don't think they have the first clue of actually what I'm telling you right now. All they know is they want to keep the war machine humming because it's almost a reflex, a native muscle memory built in places like Iraq. Iraq and Afghanistan, we wasted $7 trillion of our national debt is due to those two wars. Thousands of our sons and daughters dying in those two wars. And 20 years later, the Taliban, for God's sake, is still in charge in Afghanistan. And Iraq is a more broken country than when we showed up. So I refuse to make those same mistakes. But it's going to take a president with an actual vision for our foreign policy of how we advance American interests. Is that isolationism? No, it's not. It's looking at every context, every conflict through the lens of what advances the American interest. And you know what? This will actually make China less likely to go after Taiwan, and I'll explain why. Xi Jinping's bet right now is that the U.S. won't want to fight two different allied nuclear superpowers, Russia and China, at the same time because they're in an alliance. But if Russia's no longer in China's camp, Xi Jinping then absolutely has to think twice before going after Taiwan. And Taiwan matters to us in a way that Ukraine doesn't, in part because we depend on Taiwan for the little chips that power our phones or these fans or these lights or a modern way of life. So I look at every conflict through the lens of my obligation, which is to you, not to some Ukrainian kleptocrat who wants to use your money to buy a bigger house, which is what they're using our money to do today. So I know there was a lot there in that answer, but there's a lot in your question, and so I hope that addresses it. That's what it means to lead, not just with slogans, but with a clear vision for how we will end this war in a manner that advances American interests and puts Putin in a position that wouldn't be in his interest, and he wouldn't have the capability to take another step after that because it's backstopped by a guarantee with the U.S. pulling him apart from China. Hope that addresses it. Gonna follow up?
We do.
Last question right here.
Quick one. Here, follow. You good? You good? Okay, good.
Last question.
Good. Last question right here. Okay. Okay. Well, how about we go here and give you the final word? Let's go.
Okay.
She had her hand up.
Two quick
Just
things.
give me the two quick. I'll
Okay.
take you together and you get the final word, of course.
I have a question as well.
All right. Give it. I'm gonna go. Kind of go rapid fire. Did Schultz already go to the next site?
We'll take care of it.
Send Matt to the next site. I'm having too much fun with these guys. This is not the usual kinds of. I hate check the box questions. I like details, and so we're having fun here.
Yep.
Sir. And then I'll go to you, and then.
Okay.
you.
Thank you. I didn't plan to just stand up and do this.
That's
But
okay.
I had to, because I gotta voice my opinion, and now is the time.
Amen.
Let me gather myself.
You want me to go here and then come back to you?
Yeah.
That's fair enough. Let me do that. Let's go to this woman right here. We'll come back to you.
All right, first, we know the media tells lies. Is there anything you can do to make sure the truth comes out for all
Yes.
people? And with winning the election, how do you think we'll win the election when we know there's voter fraud?
Okay, so let me answer two deep questions. I'll go quick. First and shortest thing I'm doing is at least calling out the media's lies on their own turf. I'm not just going to call the fake news media. And Trump did a lot. He kind of unearthed the problem. You got to dissect. I mean, they're devious, right? The premises they'll come to you with are baked into the premise of you. I don't know, you guys see this exchange? I had this with this pathetic Washington Post reporter the other day about a Steve King endorsement. You guys know who Steve King is? Good man. He's a good Iowan. Wrongly tarred by the media as some kind of, they call him a racist, a white supremacist. It's all garbage. You think it's a white supremacist going to endorse a guy by the name of Ramaswamy who looks like this? It doesn't make any sense. People don't think. We do denounce racism. I said I denounce invidious racism because racial discrimination is wrong in this country. But you haven't denounced white supremacy. Well, if you could tell me what white supremacy is, maybe I could tell you whether I denounce it. But the left is telling you that it's being on time. Punctuality is white supremacy. The written word is white supremacy. I'm not making this up. There's a museum at the Smithsonian that says exactly delineates the markers of white supremacy. So part of the way I'm doing this is by not hiding from the media. A lot of Republicans have fallen into this trap, so they will only talk to friendly networks or pre-script their settings. You have other candidates in this race that won't, pre-screen exactly who's in this room. I promise you wouldn't pre-screen the questions. There's no fake planted questions. Most of the other campaigns, I don't think you all know this, but before they come in, I mean, very carefully, you have a number of journalists that were removed from Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley's events even in the last couple of days. We don't do that. Because if I'm going to sit across the table from Xi Jinping, I better be willing to sit across the table from Don Lemon. Who, by the way, after he sat across the table from me, we got him fired. For making a fool of himself. And that's how we show up and win. So that's what I look at. The second point is on the election. So I didn't mention this before. Because the promises I make are the promises that, in my case, I can get done without Congress. I'll get it done as your next president without asking anybody for permission or for forgiveness. What I will deliver legislatively as your next president, it's my top legislative priority, is single-day voting on Election Day as a national holiday with paper ballots, government-issued ID to match the voter file, and English as the sole language that appears on a ballot. I will deliver that to you as your next president. So then she asked a smart question, but how are you going to get there first? I'm a civilian right now. I'm a businessman. I can't change that until I get in there. Goes to your Indiana friend's question in part two. This can't be a 50.1 election. This has to be a Reagan 1980-style moral mandate. And a landslide minus some shenanigans is still a victory. That's the hard answer. We're riding on broken rails. I'm bringing young people into our movement at a scale we have not seen in our party's history. We're bringing libertarians and others along who stand for the same liberty-oriented principles that we do, but haven't thought of themselves as traditional Republicans. That is what it's going to take.
But
A
how do you know they
landslide
won't
minus a margin. What's that?
cheat? How do you know they won't cheat? They do.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. I think I am the best chance we have. I would love to tell you it's all going to be honky-dory. It's morning in America. The American dream is alive and well. It's not. It's alive and hanging on for life support. But we've got a number of months to get this right in this country, and I am in this because I believe I am the single best suited person in this country to get this job done, or else I wouldn't be standing in front of you here. So can I guarantee anything to you? I told you I'm not God. You got to know you believe in God. First step is knowing you're not it. We can't portend the future, but we can each do our part. And I believe I am best suited than anybody else in this race to see through a landslide Reagan 1980 moral mandate. And my heart tells me we will succeed in doing it. But it's our job to make sure we don't fall into their trap, see where the puck is going, and actually do the right thing for this country. Sir, if you'd like to briefly ask your question.
Please.
Thank you.
So basically, I'm here all day, so I have plenty of time to ask you. But I had to make my presence known right away at the beginning of your day.
Okay, well, thank you.
Because I'm here to ask a lot of hard questions.
Give me your top one, because I want to be respectful of the other two people here.
I'm not even going to ask you a question right now. I don't have time
Okay, fair
for
enough.
it, and you don't have time for it.
Well, thank you, sir, and appreciate you being here. And
But I'm going to qualify myself.
okay.
One of your top policies is about qualifications, this whole DEI program.
End it.
So, when I say this to you, this will show everybody else the truth.
Okay.
Okay? I'm here to qualify myself to speak for you, to reach people that is impossible for you to reach. When I communicate to people I know, it doesn't matter what I say about you. And I want you to know, I probably know you best because I listen to you nonstop since I decided to follow you.
I appreciate that. So what's your name?
Justin McCauley.
Justin, thank you. I appreciate your support.
One
and having
last
followed me.
thing.
Thank you.
One last thing is I'm a product of this society, of the United States that we live in. My entire family are products of the American indoctrination program, and I have proof my entire family is part of it. And I know you speak truth.
It's up here for a
Okay,
reason.
I believe in you 1 bazillion%. I'm here to ask the hard questions because the first thing people tell me is, who, that young brown guy?
And I appreciate that, Justin. And I'll tell you, anybody who's new and skeptical of a new guy, be skeptical initially. That's fair. You should be. That's what the last few years have taught us. But at some point, we have a decision to make for our country. And I'm going to ask you to just open your eyes and do the right thing for our nation. I appreciate your kind words. I promise this woman a question, and then we're going to give you the final word.
Okay, I'm
Briefly.
really pro-life. I want to know what...
Pro-life
Right.
views.
Good. And I want to know what you think about the United Nations, because when I watch some of the stuff that they do, they are bringing anti-life...
Again, two big
to other
questions.
countries. So-
They are spreading the anti-life movement to other countries. So I'm solidly pro-life. I believe unborn life is life, and we have to stand for that. There's a temptation now in the Republican Party where they're saying, oh, we got to back off this issue, we're going to lose the general election. No. The way we're actually going to win is by standing more strongly for our principle. There's so much I could say, but I'm going to give you one example of something that I favor, that I think is a winner for us, and is consistent, deeply consistent with my pro-life position. Yeah, we'll talk about access to contraception, child pregnancy, crisis pregnancy centers, to child care, to adoption. I'm going to give you one we haven't talked about. And we should favor it as a pro-life movement. State laws that require the man, if it's confirmed by a genetic paternity test, to have excess financial responsibility both to the kid and to the mother, if the mother chooses to make the man responsible. So if she brings the child to term, the mother at her own option can make the man responsible for raising the child plus expense. What does this say? This defangs the number one objection the left has, which is it's about imposition on the woman. This says we're all in this together. It's not about men's rights or women's rights. It's about human rights, and we're all in this together. And that's how I'm not going to compromise on our pro-life principles, but reach people who actually many of them share our pro-life instincts in common. There's a case of a pregnant woman who's assaulted and the unborn child died as a result. I haven't met one person in this country who says that criminal shouldn't be punished. That says we share the instincts in common. But it's up to us to actually walk the walk when it comes to being pro-life. As it relates to the UN, I will stop funding any institution that is hostile to U.S. sovereignty. That includes the WHO, that looks like it will include the UN, the WF, or any other institution. Regain our sovereignty and stop paying for the institutions that are hostile to it. Thank you. Great question. Sir, I promise you the final word. You've got a great group together here, so thank you for that, sir.
Well, I want to thank you for coming here again. Last time you came here, we had the pride flags up here.
I remember that, driving up.
Up and downtown.
I see. Things have
Nothing
changed in the
against
winter.
those, but you know, our city has a policy that those are the only group that allows to fly their flags on their flagpoles. So I made a point of telling you that the only place there wasn't one was in front of our place. When I came in Friday, there was one up there. So Saturday when they had their parade, I flew an American flag and the Gadsden flag on that pole out in front. My trial was supposed to be tomorrow, but the city's going to ask. The city's going to ask for their second continuance tomorrow. So that's what we all have to do. You spoke about we need
Trial for flying the American flag. Interesting.
You spoke about how we've been too quiet for too long. We need to speak up and tell people who we are, what we stand for. That is why this place is here. That's why we started it in 2018. And I want to thank you very much for coming here twice here to Decorah and being here.
And I want to thank you. Give this man a round of applause for what he does every day for this program. Thank you.
I just want to encourage everybody to listen to your words, because I've been saying them for years also, that yes, it's time for us to stand up.
Yes.
Time to speak out and not let this country be taken over by people who hate us.
Yes.
And I just want to encourage all of you, this place is supported through your donations and help. And so any kind of help you could give us to keep this place open and keep doing what I believe need to be done, and Vivek needs to be done, I would appreciate it. And again, thank you very much for coming here twice.
I appreciate it.
Inspiration.
Two donations. Donate to this place and donate your time on January 15th. 30 minutes of your time to save this country. And if you all do your part, our family, we will do ours, as I said, to make sure that our best days can still be ahead of us. Thank you, guys. God bless you and your families and the United States of America. Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's the truth, and that's the revolution we want you to be a part of. We can get this done, and he is the one that leads that charge. Please get with one of us as a staff member before you head out to sign one of our caucus cards. Join our team on these final couple days as we have it in the caucus. And remember, January 15th, grab your friends, your family, your neighbors, your children, your grandchildren, everybody you got that can go out.
We're 15 minutes late now.
Across that finish line of the Iowa caucus. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
We'll be behind you. Spread the word in this community, all right? That's what I'll ask. Thank you. Yeah. Spread the word. You're going that way. What do we do, Kim?
I don't know. I'm going to see. These guys are following me. Before you guys camera ready? You go.
Yeah, right, that box.
Are you in the picture with me?
He's already halfway.
picture of all that stuff. I just think it's cool. You want to be in the picture?
Oh, you do?
I got a hug and I didn't give anybody to take my picture.
Thank you. Well, tell them.
I didn't do that for you. It wouldn't be my pleasure.
Yeah, so we have a couple more events today if you wanted to travel with us. Obviously, that's one factor. The other way is if you have, like, so you can ask here. You just go straight to them or post it on social media and tag us all. And you can respond that way, too. So, yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
We're not the next. For those that want pictures, if you want to have your phones out and ready to go, we can speed this along. Selfie mode if we need to, just in case.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No, thank
There you go. Just get it to us before you head out.
Okay. Inspired me, so thank you.
You've got long legs. Then you can be in with me.
The Iowa caucus.
Yeah. Just to make it a little easier. Because we're already late. It's fun. Where you guys going? We are heading.
Never anything more than
It's a good question.
Yeah. Hopefully not so far.
Not too crazy. No, we're going down to
I think
Fayette.
that
Yeah.
forgiveness is
To the
university. Dischargeability of bankruptcy.
Top Hat Cavern.
What more important thing we need to do
Down in
is bring down the cost of
West
higher
Beach.
education by eliminating the bureaucracy.
Half-hour drive.
Yeah, not too bad.
Adds to 1 or 2 year programs.
And we'll be down in Independence at 5 o'clock. So. Fun day.
On this schedule, no, you
the
won't.
first one. This is the first of the day. We got 4 more, I think.
You will make the Independence by 5.
I know.
Yeah,
That was exploitive. That was exploitive and wrong. That's actually what happened. Yeah, it started with the Department of Education. That's part of why I want to shut
Did you
down.
guys fill out one of our caucus first before?
I think we should do a retroactive.
Truthfully, honestly, I
Dischargeability within
I
bankruptcy
told
is reasonable discussion. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming.
I just want to
I appreciate that, sir. Thank you very much. Hi.
picture.
Good to see you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate the question. My question. Do you live around here? Around the caucus? Oh, we're going to ask you to do it. And